Hello, and welcome to Opening Doors Podcast. I'm Rachel Dalinka, and today my guest is Wayne Garrett. Wayne is from Southwest Philadelphia. He spent time in prison, and after release, he went through the workforce development program for justice-impacted people offered by Uplift Solutions. He was hired by Brown ShopRite, and he worked his way up to store manager. He's currently a community and engagement and reentry coordinator for Uplift, and is president of Uplift Alumni Association and the author of Warrant for Blood. Wayne's is a story of taking the energy and persistence that he used in his illegal activity to now using that energy to work to help others find their way after release from incarceration. Welcome to Opening Doors, Wayne. If you could tell us a little bit about, your background and what led to your prison time.
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Rachel. It's my honor and pleasure to be here on your podcast. Well, again, my name is Wayne. I'm affectionately called by my family, including my parents, as Jamaal, which is my middle name. So a lot of people call me Maul, but it's cool. Wayne, Maul, whatever the case may be, I'm the same guy. And as Rachel already stated, I am from Southwest Philadelphia, 49th and Warrington to be exact. I grew up in an Islamic household. We could start there, right? So I grew up in matter of fact, let's push it back a little or further to make it a little more interesting. I was actually born prematurely, and I had a big opening on the side of my stomach where my intestines were hanging out. So I spent a tremendous amount of time as an infant inside of Children's Hospital. In fact, they made a rule on the side of the cigarettes to say that they have to warn you of the dangers of smoking cigarettes. And that law was inducted by Surgeon General Everett Koop, which was my surgeon at the time.
Wow.
So it was a rough start from the beginning. It just seems from the rip. Let's come out in this world and you're fighting for your life. But to move a little forward, I was raised in an Islamic in a household. In the beginning, of course, my mother and father was there. I have an older sister. And things were pretty, I would say normal as far as the stories that you would hear in the Black community with some struggle there. We were on welfare. But I did learn a lot from my mother. She just wasn't one of those women who just took welfare as a career. She actually used it for a stepping stone. And in fact, you would catch us on the corner of Germantown and Shelton, and she would make like baked goods and Islamic attire in order to supplement the income. We always had food on our table. It always wasn't the best life, but I never went hungry. And for the most part, I always had clothes that I wanted. Somewhere down the line, she met another individual, and that's when we moved to Southwest. So originally, I was born in Germantown, but I always claimed Southwest Philly because that's when I began to get my personality or my character, who I was. Because we left Germantown so early, I was only 11 years old. So I was molded by Southwest Philly. So around that time, she met a gentleman. And for whatever reasons, we weren't seeing eye to eye. We didn't seem to get along. So it was that challenge of living in a home where I didn't really feel comfortable. Then I went to a school at the time, it was called Anna Howard Shaw. It was right up the street from me. So I'm on 49th and Warrington. The school was between 54th and 55th. At the time, Anna Howard Shaw was rated the worst school in Philadelphia. And it was a middle school. The worst school in Philadelphia. And they had secondary school for kids who were in trouble, and they would send them to a secondary school. Our school, Anna Howard Shaw, was worse than those schools. In fact, at the tender age of 12, I seen people using what they call pancake and syrup, which would be like Percocets or Xanaxes, and they would mix it with what people would call lean, which is the medicated cough syrup. At the age of 12, so I was introduced to drug usage there. I didn't get into that, but I was exposed rather than introduced. And also carrying weapons.
So these are 12-year-olds using the drugs.
12-year-olds.
And 12-year-olds carrying weapons.
sixth graders. And I remember, specifically remember, it was this guy in class, and when he went up to go to the bathroom, his gun fell on the floor. And everybody looked and was in shock, like, oh, he has a gun. And the teacher looked and then looked away as if she didn't see anything. And I was like, okay, I know what kind of school I'm in now. It was constant fights all the time, student on student and student on teacher. It was normal, you know. So I wasn't used to that hostile environment because coming from Germantown and moving to Southwest Philadelphia was a culture shock, to say the least. The Germantown we know now is not the Germantown there before. Now Germantown is, as they say, turned up. But at the time was a culture shock. It was more rough in those streets of Southwest Philadelphia because I had to go from 49th Street to 54th Street and go through what they call a strip, which is 52nd Street, which is the roughest street in Southwest and West Philadelphia. Okay, so school wasn't working for me because of the hostile environment. I didn't really enjoy being in that school. And then the other alternative was to be at home, and I wasn't comfortable there either. And it's no fault to my mother. She did the best that she could, but given the circumstances that I was in. So I didn't want to go to school and I didn't want to go home. So that led me into the streets. So I would hang out with these guys. They were twins. And, they say hurt people hurt people. They were adopted, and their adopted mother used to abuse them and their sister, and they would
Oh,
tell
no.
stories about how she would whoop them, make them stand in the corner, and whoop them with belts, make them hold books and stuff like that, and stand on the corner in the corner and just hold things for hours. I was a little sexual abuse, they said, which was happening there. And there was another guy. I don't want to say his name, but I remember his name to this day. He was another troubled child. So now you have four of us together running around in the streets, and we started doing things like breaking into cars, trying to find change, and looking for the mailman to leave stacks of mail so we could steal the mail and possibly find some money. And that's the things that we did. And we ended up one day, and this is an embarrassing story, but I have to tell it to be honest. We were around the area called Clark Park. Anybody familiar with the area of Clark Park?
Sure. Clark
Um,
Park's lovely. I mean, it may not have been that. I don't know.
yeah, no, it is. However, it's this type of institution that's next to Clark Park. And we decided to climb over the gate and steal some tricycles. As 12-year-olds, we thought that was a great idea. And we did. We stole the tricycle. So we're going down, I believe, Springfield Avenue, riding down. And next thing you know, these cops pull up on us as if we attempted to murder the president. It was like very intense. Then we realized the reason why they were so angry because that was a home for crippled children, disabled children. So you could see how that landed for us.
You stole bikes from the wrong people.
Exactly. But we had no idea. Not saying that it takes away from what we was doing, but we were just kids, doing kid things. So that was how I was introduced to crime personally for me, my introduction to the system. And things from there went downhill. The next encounter I had, I was about 15, and I had my brother who was 5 at the time. And my mom gave us money to go get our haircuts, right? So we go get our haircut. On on the way getting our haircut, two of my friends come along, and it was an elderly man coming down the street, and they had a great idea. Hey, let's rob this guy, and that's
Hmm.
what happened. They robbed the guy, and when the cops came, they locked all of us up, and
What happened to your brother, the 5-year-old?
they left him on the corner.
No.
Yeah, they just left him on the corner. I remember I was hysterical in the back of the cop car screaming, "That's my brother, my brother. No, please don't leave my brother." And they was like, "Shut up, shut up." And I was like, wow. But luckily, a friend of mine had happened to walk up, and he just was like, "I got them all. I got them. I'll take care of them."
Whew.
Just a sidebar. To this day, that really affected my brother how he sees police officers, and he's 40 now. So,
Yeah, that had to be really traumatizing for a little kid.
and it's crazy because remember he was there, so he know I didn't do anything to the dude. I was just there, and one of the witnesses got us confused. So I became the guy who robbed the guy, and then he became the guy who didn't rob the guy. And I remember when we were going to court, I tried to speak up, like, no, that wasn't me, that was him, and they wouldn't let us speak. They just told us to be quiet. So, but I did get a good deal out of it. I guess I ended up getting sent home on uh, like house arrest or whatever they call it. They gave me a curfew and told me I had to be home after school, but that didn't work because I didn't want to be home. So now you're trying to force me to be somewhere I don't want to be. I didn't feel comfortable being home unless my mom was there. So we end up. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, so what happened there? How did you manage that situation? If you
I want to tell you this. One guy got about 4 months. The other guy got about 30 days in juvenile facilities. I just had house arrest, but I would never come home. So, with that being said, I ended up getting sent to a place called St. Gabriel's Hall for 10 days and 2 months. So, I ended up getting more time for not listening to the system than the actual crime itself. I got more time than both of them combined, and you can double and triple it up, and it still didn't, get what I got. So once I got into St. Gabe's, now I got introduced to the real criminals, guys that were really into the streets, the drug dealers, people who were known for shooting people and burglaries and robberies. Like they were well, I guess, seasoned in those activities for such a young age. So
wait,
those
so
are
these are kids. They're kids. They're at the St. Gabe's, which is, I'm assuming, is like a juvenile detention center.
that's in Audubon, Pennsylvania. That's under investigation for sexual abuse right now. So you have all these kids that go in, and we are a product of our environment, so it seemed normal. And I became friends with a guy who lived in a part of West Philly section that we call Down the Bottom, and yeah, so I came home and I started selling narcotics with him. Right, so at this time I was on probation, and my mom reported that.
I just have to say one thing. And
Sure.
and this is part of why I'm doing this podcast, because the system needs to change. You send juveniles to a detention center and you're just teaching them how to become a more advanced criminal
Mhm, mhm.
instead of looking into giving them other kinds of help, whether it's therapy, mental health work. That, in my opinion, really needs to change. That's a huge problem.
Absolutely, absolutely, because I became worse than what I initially was. And, you know, uh, children are very impressionable, and we tend to become that which accepts us. So if I'm in an
Mm.
environment where people see me as cool, I'm a friend, and I want to be involved with y'all. I want to be cool with you guys. I know what I'm doing is wrong, but where we come from is not wrong. It's only wrong because you said it's wrong. We're quite fine of doing what we're doing. So I was reported for, you know, not doing the things I needed to do, and he sent me to a drug facility called Abraxas, all the way in Erie, Pennsylvania. Yay, Erie, Pennsylvania, 20 miles from Canada. And this
Wow.
was wild. This place was wild, very intense, a little, you could feel a little racism in the city as well. And, that's another cultural clash that I experienced. And I escaped from there. I actually got someone who worked there to help get me out, and they paid for my bus ticket back to Philadelphia. So I came back to Philadelphia. Mhm.
As an escapee.
Yeah. So I came back to Philadelphia, but I was 18 by now. And my mom said, "No, no, 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 we're not doing this." So she's like, you can't stay here. I don't want this around. Your little brothers and things like that, which is makes sense. I don't fault her for that. So what ended up happening, I doubled back. I had a father who lived out in Erie, Pennsylvania, so I went back to Erie, Pennsylvania, and that I never had a chance to heal. I never got therapy, so it doesn't. It's just a troubled person just moving in different areas. But no matter where I go, I take myself with me, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up getting into a string of robberies that became my next pastime hobby. So I did about 10 robberies, different, gas stations, convenience stores, pizza man, somebody walking out the street, someone pumping gas with large sums of money. Anybody I deemed as a victim, and I robbed them. And I got caught for four. I went to prison 7 days before I turned 19 to Pittsburgh. They call it SCI Pittsburgh now, but it was Western, very dangerous jail. It's as old as Eastern that we have in Philadelphia. So it's Eastern, and then Pittsburgh is Western, right? And I did time in there, did 5 to 10, came home. I still didn't have it right? So I still didn't get the counseling that I needed, therapy. So after leaving there, I just was more seasoned. And being a criminal was like, this is who I am now. This is what I'm going to do. And I would carry a gun like a person puts their belt on, and carry their wallet and cell phone. And I never left the house without it. And eventually that got me caught up. And again, I got locked up in West Philly. I went back to prison, and I had to max out the rest of my sentence. So I maxed out my sentence. Yay, I'm off parole. No more in the system now, right? I'm free. However, I was free physically, but mentally, spiritually, emotionally, I was still incarcerated with all of the issues that I had. Right. And so, yeah, I went back out to Erie, PA, foolishly. And I ended up getting involved in narcotics. So I'll sell, I had quantities of cocaine, crack, ecstasy, and weed. And I thought I was having a good time, making money, doing whatever I wanted to do. Didn't have to worry about being at a job, clocking in, clock out. I'll just do whatever I want to do. Somebody want to call me, is a phone call away. I'll make the transaction and go about my business. It just seemed like a fun lifestyle. Until one day, some guy wanted to go around and shoot his enemies. So he went around town shooting his enemies, and he happened to be in the same kind of car I was in. So when they saw us on the highway, they called all these police officers, and they waited for us to go off the exit. They ambushed us, had us get out the car, turn the car off, drop the key, the keys out the window, blah, blah, blah. And during the investigation to see what was going on, a call came across the radio like, it's good. Those not the guys. We actually caught the guys who did it. And they said, so they're free to go. And then they said, not him. He has narcotics in the car. And so, yeah, it actually.
You didn't have a good enough lawyer.
Yeah.
Because that's illegal search and seizure.
Exactly. But see, is a loophole for the officers. Here's the loophole. They reported that drugs was hanging out of my pocket.
Ah.
So if it's in plain view, then there's probable cause, right? So who they're going to believe, the career criminal or,
certainly not the career criminal. No.
And here's the irony behind it, right? So, you'll hear us beautiful black people say, when we go to court, if we go to trial, they say, it'll be a jury of our peers, right? Nah, it's a jury of your peers, not my peers. But one guy was actually my peer. I knew him. So I was like, yeah, he's going to see through the nonsense. And all I need is one person to say not guilty, and I'm scot-free. Well, during trial, he raised his hand, and the judge said, yes. He said, can I speak? He said, sure, go ahead. He said, only God can judge this man. Only God can judge this man, not me, not you, not anybody. So that was his way of getting himself excused. So at that moment, I was like, yeah, this is over for me. I'm not going to beat this. And they ended up, pausing for trial and said, we'll recontinue this tomorrow in the afternoon. So I went back to Erie County to the cell, and I got on the phone to call someone and say, all right, come pay my bail. And they come pay my bail, and I left and never showed back up to court and became a fugitive in Philadelphia for 3 years, 3 strong years. Huh? And guess where I got caught at? Clark Park. Yay!
Wow.
Yeah,
so full circle.
Right across the street, like directly across the street from where we had stolen the bikes. It was very weird. But to be honest, at that point, I didn't want to go back to prison. But it's so hard being a fugitive, not being able to work and look over your back. And it was
How old were you at this point?
In my mid-30s.
Wow.
So at this point, I was exhausted of living that lifestyle, being in so much trouble, being a disappointment to my family, my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters, not being that example. And I knew better. I just had a lot of healing to do. So I said, you know what? When I go in this time, like, as he was taking my son, I'm gonna do everything I need to do. I'm gonna take every available program. I'm gonna open up. I'm gonna be honest with who I am and where I failed at. All right, because if you're not honest to put your struggles out there, you can't get the necessary help that's needed to heal.
Absolutely.
I buried my head into the Bible. I read scripture. I talked to religious advisors. I read books, and I made sure I stayed away from people I didn't want to be around to live that lifestyle. I was so serious about it, I quit smoking cold turkey. I haven't picked up a cigarette since 2010 when I was apprehended in Clark Park. And so I came home and I said, I'm not going back. Lost a lot of friends because we're not in the same activities. But during so, I did manage to get a parole officer that wasn't really seemed like he didn't want to see my success. And I was traveling to Delaware County to go to church, and when he got wind of it, I actually told him, and then they sent me to a halfway house in Kentuck. I was like, "Wow, you gonna send me halfway back going to church outside?" Like it wasn't really,
Yeah.
yeah, right, going to church. I mean, not a party or church.
Wow. That's what you got nabbed for by your parole officer, going to church.
So I did the 60 days, and I came home, and I said, I'm still not going to allow that to dampen the joy that I finally found within, the confidence, the admiration of myself, the self respect. And I had visions and goals that I wanted to accomplish. So when I came out, I went to go see my parole officer. He grabbed a piece of paper, he slid it across the desk. He said, "Yeah, Wayne, well, since you don't have a job, take this program." I read the flyer, said, retail program by Uplift Solutions. If you finish the program, you're guaranteed a job at one of Jeff Brown's supermarket. Jeff Brown had 10 shop rights and 2 fresh grocers.
And Jeff Brown, who did run for mayor of Philadelphia,
Absolutely.
was one of the founders of Uplift Solution, which is
Absolutely. Yes.
an amazing organization where you work now that helps people that were formerly incarcerated get training and the necessary skills so that they can have gainful employment and recidivism can be reduced
Yes. Yes.
and real change can be made.
The, the,
So
the,
tell us how Uplift helped you and where you went after that.
well, to be honest, I was full of resentment at the time. I didn't want to do any more programs. I did every program that was offered to me in prison, and I
Hmm.
excelled at these programs so well that every program I took, I was asked by a staff member to come back to help facilitate. So if you're using me to help facilitate programs in prisons, I don't need any more programs. So, but I did it because I'm like, my back is against the wall. He's scrutinizing me. He's telling me to take this program. I didn't want to take it, but I act like I was overjoyed to take the program. And I decided to use it I decided to change my anger into motivation. It made me mad, but it made me say, I'm going to do my best to make sure that this works in my favor. And so I took it very seriously. I would dress, put on some khaki pants, some chinos, a button up, tuck my shirt in, and look like a professional. Every day I want to uplift like that. And when I became a cashier for $8.25, here, pause on that, $8.25. I still worked as if they were paying me 50 grand a year. I usually said yes to mostly things as long as it didn't compromise my integrity. I was very flexible. And within 4 years, I became the store manager. So, I start to see the fruits of my labor. But before that transpired, I was called back from Uplift Solutions to sit on a board. And to be honest, I couldn't understand. I'm like, why are they calling me to sit on a board? I'm not like these people. No one in this room is anything like me. These people are college educated, never been in trouble before. Well, at least I thought, like a couple of people I learned. But so I did call a friend of mine. I'm like, why would they want to invite me to sit on a board? I don't see how I have anything to offer. And then I realized what I offered was my lived experience,
Absolutely.
my outlook.
Absolutely. Your lived experience, your authenticity, and your commitment to doing the work.
Absolutely. So it worked for me, and I was moving forward with the ShopRite. ShopRite, Jeff Brown, the Brown Superstore is an awesome company to work for. I have zero negative things to say about them. They was very supportive, and anything that I ever tried to do, they always worked with me. They always wanted to see me successful, and I felt like I had an awesome support system with Brown Superstores. So, but when I'm sitting on a board, I seen opportunities where job positionings will open up. And not to make this sad, but this is part of the story. Uh, During this time, like a couple of Marches ago, my son was murdered, who's on my shirt. My son was murdered, and it really
I'm
made me look at
so
life.
sorry.
I appreciate it. I looked at life differently, and I wanted to help people through their pain, their trauma. I spent so much time, and this is nothing to the Browns because I know I could always go back, and I wouldn't mind going back if I needed to. Um, but I looked at it like I'm spending a lot of time working because I want to be successful. I want my family to be proud to see that I changed my life. But I'm spending so much time doing this, I'm giving zero, not zero, but my family is not getting much. And losing my son, I realized that I was putting too much energy into work when it should have been balanced through my family. Right. So I was aiming to set myself up so if I was to ever pass away, at least I could leave something behind to my children. But I never planned on losing a child. So it made me revisit my thoughts, and I said, let me try and give Uplift a shot. I want to be able to speak to other people. I want to be able to prevent things from happening. And I want to give my authenticity, as you said, and who I am and pass it on to others to try to make the world a better place one person at a time if that's possible. So I became the community engagement and reentry coordinator, and I love my job.
And I've seen you in action, and I know the great work that you do. Um, I know for you, it was a really long road
Yeah.
to get to the place where you are right now. Can you talk a little bit about how important having support and support systems after being incarcerated when you come out of jail, how important that is?
It is so important. I can't even give myself. I have to be humble enough and honest. First of all for me, all credit goes to God. His love, mercy, and grace is what really made everything happen. So I'm going to say that first. Secondly, is again, I can't give myself all the credit because I would not be able to have reached where I am at now without my support, right? Having support from my mother, my wife. Those are the main things because those are two people that I had in my corner who I have in my corner who wants to see me win. That's important because you come home with nothing. But if you have
Yeah.
people around who want to see you succeed, right? Telling somebody you want to see them succeed is different than showing them you want them to succeed.
So that brings me to my next question. What are some of the really important things for friends and family to know to be able to support their loved one when they come back from incarceration? How do you show, not just say, you want someone to succeed? If you can give an example.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest one for me is not having unrealistic expectations. Right?
Mm.
Us men being in prison, we're men are taught here in America that we have to protect and provide. That's always the number thing: protect and provide. So a lot of people are, I can't wait till my uncle or brother or husband come home so they can do X, Y, and Z. As soon as they come home, you throw the world on their shoulders and it's too much pressure for them to take in. They have to unwind. They have to find their groove back into society. And oftentimes we don't understand that and we expect so much out of them that it becomes stressful for one. And they want to be able to provide and protect because that's how they identify themselves. That's how they define themselves. And when they're not able to protect and provide, they don't feel like they're men. So now they start doing things to try to supplement their income. I'm gonna sell a little bit of this on the side, or I'm gonna commit this crime. I'm gonna take this shortcut. And some of them even start self-medicating because it becomes depressed. So the number one thing is not having unrealistic expectations, but love is defined through understanding someone and giving them the space to be able to get back into the groove and just helping them along the way with certain things and making sure they have something to eat. Do they have a car fare to travel? Or can you help them sometimes find a job or drive them somewhere? Just having that kind of support is very essential to show that somebody out there really care. And it does something for your mind because you're coming from an environment where it's hostile and no one cares about what you got going on. You just need to follow these rules or you're not going home. So to pour that love into them is also important just to show them that you care by your actions, being supportive and not judging them or telling them what they need to do, but
Mm,
asking what they want and helping them achieve these goals.
thank you, Wayne. Thank you. Um, and then what kinds of changes do you believe need to happen behind the walls or within the system to make reentry easier and to make reentry more successful so that people aren't, like you're saying, coming out of incarceration, not being able to find a job, and going back to the way they can provide for their family, which was unfortunately illegal activity.
Mhm.
What are some of the, you know, as someone who's been there, what do you think could change to
Well,
make things easier?
they start by letting judges be judges again. They start making laws that if you do this, then you have to get this. Like if you're caught with crack cocaine, you're this. And everybody's story is not the same. But if you're making a law to say if you do this, you have to give them this much time, it takes the judge. He can't judge the situation anymore. I'll give you a case in point. Is speeding illegal? Yes. But if I'm speeding just because I want to show you how fast my car go, as opposed to the cop pull me over while you speeding. Oh, my wife is in the back. She's pregnant. Oh, I
Mhm.
understand. Cool. Well, follow me. I'll make a way. So every circumstance is not the same. Even though a person is breaking the law, we can't just make everything monolithic and deal with everybody the same way because some people need a different approach of what they have going on in their life. And again, some people are in trouble because there are issues deeper than just committing the crime. Um,
Absolutely. And so what you're talking about is mandatory sentencing. So
yeah,
eradicating mandatory sentencing
yes.
would allow judges to be judges and to be able to actually say, okay, you committed this crime, but the extenuating circumstances, maybe it could even be mental illness, make it so that this sentence doesn't really work for you.
And put more people in position that can empathize with the people. If you have a person that was raised in, let's just say, Ardmore, and he becomes a police officer and he comes into West Philadelphia, he has zero empathy of what these people are going through. So it's you're not really helping. You're just looking at it through black and white. There's no gray area because this is how you see the world. When you step into this world, there's no empathy there. So the healing can't. All they see is these people are criminals, throw them in jail. It's the same approach as when the crack epidemic was around. People who were involved in crack was criminals, right? But then when it hit a different demographic of people, now people in Kensington are using drugs out in the open, and it's a sickness now. And there's
Yeah,
reduction. You're handing out needles and crack pipes to people. So these things we have to a lot of people that are looked at as criminals is not the case, is that their circumstances, right? Because they'll say hey, every man is born equal. We are born equal, but we're not treated equal. The school system
no,
that I
absolutely not.
do is nothing like the school system you have to go through, right?
No, no.
So there's circumstances that set up that even before the system. But other than that, also afterwards, what I find another thing that's irony, when you come home from prison, they put you on parole. Part of your parole stipulation is to stay away from other parolees. So why do we have halfway houses? So
Right.
change people, places, and things. So okay, I'm gonna change people, places, and things. I don't want to live in North Philly no more. But you put the halfway houses in the hood,
And the halfway houses is are populated by the people that I'm not supposed to be around.
right? And the word "re" is a repeating something that happens again. So you are rehabilitating me. You take me out of a unhealthy environment, and then say you're going to give me the necessary tools, and then put me right back in the hunt. You rehabilitated me. You put me right back into a habitation that's unhealthy for my success. Makes zero sense to me. It just really make me say, hey, you smoke crack, good. We're going to put you in this rehab, and you're not going to smoke crack no more, right? Okay, good. We get you clean, then we put you in a crack house when we let you go, and then ask you why you're not being successful. You put me in a crack house. This is where I came from. This is why I am the way that I am, because this environment, and you return me back to this environment, and then tell me good luck. So that's another thing I don't understand is the way the whole system is set up. But I think it has lost. I don't advocate for prison, but I understand where prison came from. Penitentiary comes from the word penance, and it was sending people into these cells so a man can get to know himself. Like they said, the guy, the prodigal son, who left home and ended up in a pig pen, and when he realized what he's done, he wanted to return back to that which he came from, which was pure peace and God. So it, part of what I'm saying is you just have to make the circumstances just a little different. As far as in prison, it lost that, you know, gem of a man understanding himself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and it turned into programs, grants, and money.
Mm.
Right? So
Well, yeah, no, the prison industrial system. That's a whole other podcast episode about that. That is undeniable. It is. I don't know if you've read Michelle Alexander's brilliant book, The New Jim Crow.
I haven't had a chance. I heard so much about it, but
It's a great one, but basically, it's how prison is a modern form of slavery, and
yeah,
it is a. Um, I'll talk about that in another episode.
so many.
But Wayne, thank you so much. And again, I'm really, really sorry about your son.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
What is a parting word of wisdom that you can share with people?
My favorite line is I always tell people to don't divorce the dreams that you had as a little child. You have to tap back into your youth and start believing in yourself and dreaming, and not, when kids dream, they don't think about ways it can work. Their imagination is so full that they believe they can do anything. So begin to dream again and have goals and plans, because if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there.
Okay. Thank you, Wayne.
You're welcome. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for sharing your story and for all the work that you do now to help other people get to a better place and not have to keep and
Yes.
going back.
Yes,
Yeah,
Rachel. Yes, that is true. Thank you for having me.
you're very welcome.